tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled is Kimberly Glann and actor John Christy Ewing. Kimberly Glann, the artistic director of Moving Arts, was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. She earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Oberrine College, a small private school in Ohio. Kimberly, when you were in school, you won an award for directing Harold Pinter's The Dwarfs. How hard was that for a young college student to do?
It was a lot of fun, actually.
It was?
Yeah. I just took the play, it's actually originally a radio play. And so it's a blank slate. So I was able to just sort of do a lot of really fun, interesting, creative things with it. And I think that's what impressed them.
Did you cast it too?
Mm-hmm. Cast it.
You did everything?
Among the students. Yeah, because it was a student workshop. We cast it. We did everything ourselves: the costumes, the sets, the lighting, everything. Did. Yeah.
So you really learned from the bottom up.
Yep.
Yeah. When you got out of school, where did you go?
I moved out to Los Angeles.
Right away.
Right away.
Did you get a job right away?
I got a job right away working for a PR firm called Klein & White.
Oh, you did.
I did.
Yes, I used to work with Klein & White, Harry Klein, when I was with Interview magazine.
Did you? Yeah. Yeah.
So what did you do there?
We worked in publicity. At the time when I was hired by Harry, he handled all of the really hot independent films at the time. Pulp Fiction. It was just when independent film was really coming into its own, and we worked with a lot of great directors like Gus Van Sant and Quentin Tarantino. And so it was a really exciting time to be working with independent film, which was what I was really attracted to.
What were you doing? Were you writing some of the releases or
writing press releases
them?
And setting up like press junkets with the stars of the movie and pitching stories.
So you're really on a one-to-one with your clients or with the people who are in that independent movie.
Yeah.
In order to write the release, you have to ask them questions or work with the director, I guess.
Right.
So then you went to Fox Searchlight.
Yes. So I went over to Fox Searchlight. A former employee from Klein & White, Michelle Robertson, had been over there heading up their film for the West Coast division, and she brought me over, and we worked on a lot of great projects like Boys Don't Cry and just a ton of like really interesting, independent movies again.
They do small films, don't they?
They do.
Yeah, and then one of the things that I thought was interesting is that there's a film campaign. What goes into a film campaign? Is it just like doing PR for the film, or is it some different, you need a special expertise?
No, it's basically working with the marketing division on a cohesive campaign for promoting the film, both publicity, advertising, everything that is put out there to in the media about the film is what we.
Do you have to look for a special hook? I mean, do you do special things?
We did. We looked for special hooks.
Like, how do you? I mean, what do you do that's going to draw the audience in?
You look for something that is unique about this film that will attract the audience to it, and sometimes it's like promotion giveaways.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah.
Do you? And then how do you do that? You create the promotion giveaway?
You come up with an idea and then you talk to like the corporate people and figure out like what would work, and it's kind of a fun, very creative process actually.
Well, you've been in independent movies. Were you in independent movies after that, or just working on them?
After that, I did a few really small, not seen in the theater type of independent movies.
Did you?
Yeah.
Were you acting in them, or were you in it? And then on the stage, were you acting?
Acting on the stage.
Well, because your expertise was acting and directing, I guess. Yeah. And what were you really planning to do when you came out to Los Angeles?
You know, I wasn't sure, actually. I mean, I had my degree. I knew I wanted to come out to LA. I needed to take a break from theater. I was kind of burned out a little bit from college. So that's why I got the job and just wanted to work a day job. You know, 40 hours was fine with me. And then I slowly, gradually got back into the creative side of both film and theater.
But theater is different. It's not
Very
a
different.
day job, is it?
No, not a day job.
Is it an all-time job, all day?
All-time job, yeah, day and night.
You did have some parts in movies, though. And what kind of parts did you have?
I had a couple small roles in some films that you'll never see.
But playing what kind of a...
Let's see. Oh, the most fun one was we were a team of women who, it was sort of like an action spy thriller movie, and we were blackmailing our boss, and it was just really fun and silly. We got poisoned at one point. It was.
And then on stage?
On stage.
Not serious? Not serious roles. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, comedy roles.
Comedy roles.
Yeah.
What do you like to direct? Do you have a particular genre that you do like, talking about comedy roles?
I like to direct comedy. Most of my directing experience is with comedy and with new work, which is what Moving Arts, that's what we do at Moving Arts.
You're the artistic director of Moving Arts. And I kept wanting to say moving parts. But it's Moving Arts, Moving Arts. And it's the art on stage moving around.
That's true. That's
is that what it is? So how do you find a new play?
Well, we've been around since 1992, so we've sort of built up a reputation with playwrights across the country, and we get probably around 200 scripts submitted to us each year. So we have a literary director, Trey Nichols, and we read the plays, and then we do a play reading of the ones that we're interested in, and then from there we either produce it or we do a workshop of it.
Does one person read it, or are all of you reading it, and several people?
Yeah, we have a committee of people, and they will, you know, sometimes if a play will get read more than once, if it's something that we're interested in, yeah, so.
Do you put out the word to send you new plays?
We do. I mean, we definitely have created relationships with playwrights over the years, and we'll talk to them and, you know, request that they send us stuff, and they will.
If they've already been produced, will you look at it?
Absolutely, yeah. They don't have to be new playwrights, but the work is new, so.
But if it's played, say, in Seattle?
Yeah.
Will you take it?
Yes, as long as it hasn't been produced in the Southern California area.
Oh, I see. Oh, so you have that criteria.
We do.
And then once you get the play, do you direct it yourself?
I direct some of them. We have directors in our company. Moving Arts is it's a company of actors, directors, designers, playwrights.
So it's like an ensemble, they all do everything?
Kind of, yeah.
Like if you're not directing, will you do something else?
Yeah, well, usually I'm producing, and I'll usually help out with props or publicity or whatever needs to be done. I'm there
so
to
you
do
all,
it.
so that's what an ensemble group does.
Yeah.
And where do you show your work?
Moving Arts has a theater in the Los Angeles Theater Center, which is downtown, and we also have a second space in Silver Lake.
Do you have an office?
I do.
Oh.
In the theater center, we have office space.
Oh, in the theater center,
yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So that's where all the submissions for plays come.
They all come in there.
And when you get a new play, how do you decide that you're going to actually produce it at Moving Arts?
Right.
And then who do you assign to be the director? How do you put people together?
That's a good question. When you read enough plays, you can tell when something is really well written. For instance, the play that we're in rehearsals on right now, The Absence of Weather by Ken Urban, he actually submitted that to we have an annual one-act play competition. We received almost 300 plays. They were each read twice by our company. And
read on stage reading, or read
them
in the office reading?
Yeah, read them in the office.
And so you'd pass it to someone else to read. So two people had to read it.
Two people read it, and then the ones that we think are good enough, we read them aloud to each other.
So that's called a stage reading, or not?
Sort of. Stage reading is more, it's cast with the director and rehearsals.
Okay, so then you read it to each other, yeah.
Yeah, and then so out of those 300 plays, Ken's stood out by far. I mean, there was no close second. So the kind of material that we're looking for is something that's, you know, really well written, something that's relevant, something that has a human story that we can relate to.
It's very dramatic, the absence of weather. Tell us a little bit about it, isn't it? I mean, it's like a person in a high place really falling,
yes,
in a way.
It's true. Yeah, it's about James Forrestal, who was the first Secretary of Defense under President Truman. And he attempts suicide and is put into a mental institution.
Is that really a true story? Did
Yeah.
Ken make it up?
No, it's
a
true.
true story.
And then he ended up committing suicide. He was pretty young. He was in his 50s.
So he really, he used the facts of this situation.
He used the facts. And it's sort of, the point of view is from James Forrestal, and it takes place in the hospital room.
Oh, I see.
So it's
so
pretty
he
interesting.
created the dialogue from the facts of what happened.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating play. I mean, he also blends in like Greek theater, and there's, you know, split scenes and memories and a lot of like really bold visual imagery. I think it's going to be really fantastic.
Is all of that on his script, in his play, so that the director knows what he wants done, that he wants
It's in there.
Divided like that?
Yeah, it's in there. There are stage directions in there, and you can get a sense for what his vision is. And then the director, you were asking how we choose the director.
Then.
We got a list of people that we knew were good, who've been doing work in Los Angeles, and we kind of compiled it down to who was available and interviewed them and talked to them about the play and what they thought of the play and what their vision for the play was. And that's sort of how we selected the director.
Oh, so that wasn't really a part of your ensemble.
He's not.
And who's the director?
Mark Seldes.
Mark Seldes, yeah.
Yeah, so he's really talented. He's been around for a long, long time. He's used to be at the Actors Gang and has his own theater company now called Ghost Road.
So did he get really excited about this play? Because it has a lot of depth to it.
It does. He did. He got really excited, and he really understood the play and the relevancy to today's, you know, political climate. And also, he also really understood how important it is for us to relay the playwright's vision. Sometimes with directors, they want to put their stamp on the play. They want to, put their vision on it.
Right.
And since we're really a playwright's theater, we try to make sure that the playwright's vision is what you see on stage.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So, The Absence of Weather by Moving Arts.
By Moving Arts.
At the LA Theater Center.
At the LA Theater Center. It opens February 26th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kimberly, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for watching the first half of our show. Don't go away, because we'll be right back with John Christy Ewing. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Actor-playwright John Christy Ewing has been a professional in Hollywood for more than 20 years. I was going to say a professor. Maybe you are a professor too, John.
Not a bad idea.
He's appeared in TV series like LA Law, Law and Order, Murder, She Wrote, Taxi. He's had major roles in TV movies, and he's been on the big screen. Prior to all this acting, though, you were writing and producing and directing a news station. Is that also about acting?
Well, it was, one could argue probably that everything is about acting. Right.
Nowadays, our news, when you were doing it 20 years ago, is that about when you were doing it? It was more news than acting, wasn't it?
Mid-60s.
Yeah.
I got in it kind of through the back door. I had a friend in college who was a vet back from Korea. And I was working for an international travel company at that time. I'd gotten out of the business at that point, financial considerations and all sorts of dumb stuff. And he called one day and he said, I want you to meet me at the press club at 11 o'clock to have a drink. I want to talk about something. 11 o'clock at night. And I said, Paul, I was out late last night. I'm moving to Detroit. The company's moving. If I go out tonight, my wife is going to kill me. Yeah. And he said, this is business. And so I met him. He's 6'8", weighed 340 pounds. We used to call him the mountain that walks like a man. And he said, I want you to come to work at CBS as an executive producer.
Oh, that's how you...
That's how I got into it.
Yeah.
And so I started off doing what we used to call the Sunday morning ghetto. You know, I produced Catholic shows, Protestant shows, Jewish shows, they all had, that nobody ever saw. You know,
Did you have to learn, or did you already
everything,
know?
ground up.
Oh, you had to
just
learn
walk through the door.
up.
And that's what I told him. I said, I don't know anything about this. And he said, I can teach you. You'll get it.
But where did you go to school?
University of Illinois.
And were you in acting then? Were you in the drama
I had
department?
yes. That's what I wanted to do.
I see, that's...
Because I started when I was junior in high school. And I went to the state speech contest and was the best actor in the state.
Best talker.
Best. It was a play called Hello Out There by William Saroyan.
Oh, really?
You know that one? Yeah. Then the next year I got best actor again. And then a scholarship to university. So.
So then you
But
really...
what led me to the
But
top...
yeah, finish the CBS because
Yeah,
you won an Emmy. You won an Emmy for that,
Well,
right?
that was interesting. That was before I did the talk show for women. That was Lee Phillips' show, you know, of the soap opera people. It was a show called The Little Angels, and it was 90 kindergarten and first grade black kids doing spoofs of grand opera.
How fabulous.
And
Who decided to do that?
Well, a local priest.
What a great idea.
A local priest from this school put this thing together. And I used to have to, CBS used to have a thing called CBS Repertory Workshop.
Oh, that's...
Long time ago, remember that? And so I did this show, and I would then have to screen it for the program director. And it was a 30-minute show. And he finished the screening, and the lights came up in the screening room, and he said, remember, it's 30 minutes long. He said, that's the longest hour on television.
Oh, my gosh.
And I thought, okay,
Oh,
well, let's see, where do I go next?
Right.
Then we had a screening for the press and the families, the kids of the whole thing. And it was, I mean, the applause was horrendous.
Of course, they all saw their kids, and those are the kind of audiences you want, right?
So the program director turned to me and he said, I think we've got an enormous hit on our hand. From the longest hour to the...
Exactly.
Oh, well.
But it's true, isn't that how it works? I mean, we could be sitting in the back room saying this is really boring, but if it's including the community, then you've got a winner because you have to include the community.
Well, these kids were so cute.
Oh, I bet.
And singing grand opera. You know, most of the time they had no idea what they were talking about.
So you won an Emmy for that?
Yeah.
So that was
a
great.
local Emmy, not a national Emmy.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
We like awards, no matter where they come from.
Not me. I detest them.
You're acting in your own comedy now, though.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
So from CBS, you started writing, obviously, and acting, and now you're acting in your own comedy.
Well, I don't know that I set out to do that way. Joe Reskin, the other actor in this, and I did a play by William Hanley called Whisper Into My Good Ear a couple of years ago in Hollywood. And I got the bright idea that we ought to take it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which we did. And we managed to keep the audiences away in droves. It's just no place for serious theater. It's scatological humor and kids and stuff, you know.
But that was Hanley's work.
That was Hanley.
That you were
well, then when we
performing.
came back, I never felt I was finished with it, and I don't think Joe did either. We just felt there was more to be done there. And I started writing something, the idea of which was two men get together at a coffee shop. They're friends, and they talk about things. They bring newspapers and they talk about stuff. And Jeffrey Tambor and I were going to do it together, but Jeffrey is so busy that it just never happened with him.
So he's so great too.
Oh yeah, he's wonderful.
He'd be perfect talking with you.
Yeah, well, he's a good friend, and we do this. So then I started writing, and I thought there's got to be a through line. There's got to be something that carries this, not just idle chatter for an hour and a half, whatever. And then I got the idea that these two men who were talking in the coffee shop are actors. And they are appearing in William Hanley's Whisper Into My Good Ear.
So that's how you brought that in.
So that's how that was the through line. So now what we have is, when the play opens, on one side of the stage are the two actors meeting and having coffee and talking about stuff.
And the two actors are you.
And Joe Ruskin. But we don't call him that. They call him R.J. McCaw and Philip Denby, because we found that when we first started working on it, using our own names was limiting.
Oh, really?
Very limiting, because the two characters aren't really us. They're two characters I've created who have similar characteristics, but are not the same.
So you can bring other things into those characters that maybe you couldn't bring into your...
Most of it's pure fiction.
Yeah,
right.
that you couldn't bring into your own life.
Of course not, yeah.
So what's the name of it?
It's called At the Broadway Cafe with Superb and Fine.
And that's at the Odyssey Theater.
Right.
But who is Superb and Fine?
Well, it's kind of a misdirect. It sounds like it's probably the names of these two guys, but it's not at all.
That's what I thought.
They get a review, and one of the characters is referred to as being absolutely superb, and the other one, RJ, the character I play, the reviewer says is just fine.
And so how does he take that?
It's just irritated, livid.
Does he tell us? Does he tell?
He says,
Mr.
the other guy says,
Superb?
hey, it's not a big deal, just a review. And he says, how would you like it if this character's comments were reversed and your work was just fine?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's where the title came from.
Oh, now I got it. It's really funny.
Oh, it's a comedy.
Funny.
Yeah.
I know, it really makes it funny.
Interestingly enough, it is a comedy. And we do scenes from Hanley's play. We go from the coffee shop to a blackout, and then we come up in Central Park, where Max and Charlie, these two old men, meet every day to talk about things.
But they're not actors. Max
They're real
and Charlie,
people.
they're real people,
Right.
and you're
Max
playing
is-
real people there.
Hanley doesn't tell us a lot about who they are, other than Charlie has a wife who's been in a mental institution for 34 years, and Max is a European Jew who's we don't know much about. So we made up things about him for the actors. Max, we said, was a Jew who escaped a Polish concentration
You mean
camp.
to give them something to work with?
Exactly. And we make up all this stuff about Charlie and Max. It's not in the play, it's just for the actors.
But do you direct it?
No, I did not. Burt Burns directed it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So does he come up with these ideas also for the actors to have a background, or did you just make
No,
it, write it in?
we had done that already, since we've already done this play twice,
I
the
see.
Hanley part of it. So Burke's job, a lot of his job was to get us to look at those two characters that we've been doing for 2 years differently. Find something else.
Is that why you split it then? Or
Why, you mean in
do the splits?
No, because
No.
we actually do wardrobe changes.
You actually do?
Oh yeah, we go from the coffee shop dressed in casual stuff. We change behind a big tree in the center of the stage, and then we go over into Central Park where there's a bench and a skyline of New York, and we are these two old men who meet to commit suicide.
Do you change your voices?
Very much so. Yeah.
Oh, you do.
Charlie used to be a drinker and a smoker. He still smokes cigars and he carries a bottle with him.
So are they going to do this deed together?
Yeah. And it's funny.
It's funny.
If you can imagine two old guys meeting in the park to commit suicide, and it's funny. But it's also both. I really didn't know what I was setting out to do when I wrote this.
Because it's a tough premise. I mean, it's like a tough thing to do. You have to have actors who can really pull it off.
Right.
And you also have to be able to choreograph that change.
Right.
And keep keep your audience
Interested. Right.
knowing what's going on.
They get it right away.
Do they?
Absolutely. As soon as you come out, they say, oh, I got it. Those are the two guys who are in the coffee shop. These are the parts they're playing.
I see. That's it.
But it turns out,
And those are the ones that they got reviewed on. Is that right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
They got reviewed on the two guys in
Yeah,
the park.
right.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that actually happened. Some internet reviewer gave us that review.
You have directed before, and
Right.
you've been on stage, and you've done a lot of things. Your wife is an actress.
Right,
Have
and
you
a
ever,
singer.
And a singer.
Right.
Have you ever done anything for her, written for her?
No.
Has she been in any? So she hasn't been in any of your plays.
We've never worked together. We were in an acting class years ago, but no, I haven't. She's writing her own piece right now. She's writing a one-woman show.
Oh, I love those.
You do?
Yeah.
She's taking an inordinate amount of time with it, which I think is good because it's very personal. She's not writing the music. I mean, there'll be a lot of singing along with it, but
But she's helping you produce this play
right,
as
she's
well,
a
right?
co-producer. That's
So
right.
is that easy to do? Easy to work in that capacity?
Well, it hasn't been difficult because she hasn't been all that hands-on. She's been in the background. But when we got close to opening night and preview weekend, she got much more involved. And at just about that time, things got a little heated. Yeah, it wasn't her doing, but it was actually the director and I kind of got into a tiff.
Is that what happens a lot?
I don't know. Joe and I did this play for a couple of years without any tiff at all. We like each other. We have fun together. We're good friends. We hardly knew each other before we got in this thing. But no, there was just something that came up, and both Burke and I had very strong opinions about how it should go. And we ended up going in a third direction.
That's really interesting because, you know, when people always want to use the excuse artistic differences,
That's
but there
what it was.
are artistic differences, aren't there?
Well, a lot of times artistic difference means I don't like this script, I want out of this thing. How did my agent ever get
that's
me
what I
into
mean.
it? But this was an artistic difference, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. But the point is you have so much to do, to act, to write, and also to be directed and to producing, that I would imagine...
Pay bills, do things like this,
well,
hang posters, send out postcards, you know.
well, because that's
Everything.
all part of your job,
Sure,
right?
right.
It's
Yeah.
like just coming out of college again.
I talk about that in the play, and I say, isn't it interesting? I went to an audition, and over in Las Feliz. It's in the play, also really happened. And when I'm going over there, it all of a sudden dawns on me, I worked in that studio. It was my first job out of college. I worked in the mailroom at the old Biograph studio. Remember that?
I
over in
remember that. So that's what happens. It just all comes around circle. And maybe you'll come back again.
I'd love to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
John Christy Ewing. And you keep writing to us at 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. We'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.